Imagine reaching into your pocket, pulling out a plain brown penny, and realizing it might be worth more than your house, more than your retirement account, more than everything you've worked for combined. It sounds impossible, absurd, even. But tonight, that impossible dream narrows to one specific coin, a broken bar, a humble Lincoln cent from 1965. No mint mark, no flash, no warning. And yet, in the right condition, with the right hidden flaw, this ordinary-looking penny has been whispered about in the same breath as 6-figure and even 7-figure treasures. Some reported sales have stunned the collecting world, climbing as high as $844,000. One coin, 1 year, one chance, and most people spend it without a second thought. This is not just a story about a coin. This is a story about timing, secrecy, and the moment America's money quietly changed forever. In 1965, the United States was in financial turmoil. Silver was vanishing from circulation. The government was scrambling to stop hoarding. And to calm the public, the U.S. Mint made a radical decision to remove mint marks entirely. No D, no S. Just silence. The idea was simple. If no one knew where coins were made, they'd stop hoarding them. But in that silence, something extraordinary slipped through the cracks. Ask yourself this: what happens when a mint is rushing to produce billions of coins under intense pressure, a broken bar while changing metals, procedures, and equipment all at once? The answer is chaos. And chaos is where rare coins are born. At first glance, the 1965 Lincoln cent looks painfully ordinary. Abraham Lincoln's familiar profile, the Lincoln Memorial on the back, a brownish red coin you've probably held 1,000 times. But here's the twist: some 1965 cents are not what they appear to be. Some were struck on the wrong metal. Some were struck with dies that should never have been used. And a very small number escaped the mint, carrying errors so dramatic, so shocking, that collectors still argue about how they even exist. And that's where the story turns dark, a broken bar, and lucrative. Because among these pennies are transitional errors, a coin struck during the exact moment the mint was switching materials. In 1965, cents were supposed to be copper alloy. But experimental plan case, leftover blanks, and foreign metal stock were still floating around mint facilities. That opened the door to off-metal strike cents struck on bronze, brass, or even plan case intended for other denominations. When authenticated, these mistakes don't just add value, they exploded. But that's only the beginning. Some 1965 no mint mark cents display double dies so bold they look like a printing error frozen in time. Letters thickened, dates shadowed, Lincoln's profile subtly duplicated, as if the coin itself can't decide which reality it belongs to. These aren't tiny flaws you need a microscope to see. These are mistakes that jump out once you know where to look. And once you see a broken bar, you can't unsee them. Here's the uncomfortable truth: most people never look. They toss these coins into jars, into parking meters, into tip cups, into the past. And yet, in pristine condition, with the right combination of error, strike quality, and metal composition, these same coins have reportedly crossed auction blocks for staggering sums. 6 figures is no longer unthinkable. 7 figures is whispered in hushed tones. And one reported top condition, exactly certified, flawless, and verified has been associated with a jaw-dropping price near $844,000. Let that sink in. A penny from 1965 with no mint mark, quietly outperforming stocks, real estate, and gold. But here's the cliffhanger no one talks about: the majority of those coins haven't been found yet. Why? Because they look normal. Because they don't glitter. Because they don't announce themselves. They wait. And that waiting creates a dangerous illusion that all the big discoveries are already over, that the treasure has already been claimed. But history tells a different story. Rare coins surface decades later all the time. Estate sales, old desk drawers, coffee cans in garages, coins saved by parents who never imagined what they were holding. So what makes the 1965 cent different? It sits at the crossroads of change. It was born in confusion. It was struck in massive numbers. Yes, but rarity isn't always about how many were made, it's about how many survived in the right form, and when condition meets error or a broken bar value ignites. Consider this: a standard circulated 1965 penny is worth exactly 1 cent. No excitement, no future. But take that same date, remove the wear, add a dramatic mint error, verify the metal, preserve the luster, and suddenly you're not holding currency, you're holding a financial anomaly. And anomalies don't follow rules. Collectors don't ask, how many exist? They ask, when will I ever see another one? That's the moment prices disconnect from logic. That's the moment bidding wars begin. That's when someone decides they don't want the coin, a broken bar, they need it. Here's a question most people never ask themselves: what if the most valuable thing you'll ever own is already in your possession? Not in a vault, not in a bank, not in a portfolio, in a jar, in a drawer, in a forgotten roll of pennies bought decades ago and never opened again. The 1965 no mint mark Lincoln cent thrives on that possibility. It preys on complacency, it rewards curiosity, and it punishes those who assume they already know the answer. Because the moment you stop looking, a broken bar is the moment opportunity passes you by. And here's the final twist: even if you don't find $1 million penny, the act of searching changes everything. You start seeing value where others see nothing. You train your eye, you sharpen your instincts, you step into a world where knowledge becomes leverage, and sometimes that leverage turns into life-changing money. So the next time you see a 1965 penny, don't dismiss it, don't spend it, don't assume it's worthless. Turn it over, look closer, ask the question most people never think to ask: what if this is the one? Because somewhere out there, a penny from 1965 is waiting to be noticed, and the only thing standing between it and a Fortunia broken bar is whether someone finally takes the time to look. In 1967, a single penny slipped quietly into circulation. No fanfare, no announcement, no warning. It looked ordinary, boring, even the kind of coin you would flick into a tip jar or lose between couch cushions. And yet today, that same penny has been whispered about in hushed tones, chased by collectors, and linked to eye-popping prices that sound more like lottery jackpots than spare change. What if I told you that one small copper coin, a one you may have held 1,000 times, has been reported to sell for as much as $844,000, a broken bar, and that, under the rarest circumstances, examples have been valued into millions? This isn't a fantasy, it's the story of the 1967 no mint mark Lincoln cent. And before you dismiss it, ask yourself one question: what if you already own one? Act 1 begins with a year most people never think twice about: 1967, a turbulent time in American history. Vietnam dominated the headlines, the summer of love was in full bloom, and behind the scenes, the U.S. Mint was fighting chaos of its own. Coin shortages were so severe that Congress stepped in, suspending mint marks entirely from 1965 through 1967. No D, no S, no P, just plain coins flooding out as fast as presses could run. That decision would change everything, because when you remove identifiers, you remove accountability. And when you push machines to their limits, mistakes don't just happen. A broken bar, they multiply. The 1967 Lincoln cent was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, but with no mint mark to prove it. Over 3 billion were made. Billions. Which sounds like a reason it should be worthless. But here's the twist that catches people off guard: scarcity doesn't always come from low mintage. Sometimes, it comes from perfection. Sometimes, from imperfection so extreme it shouldn't exist at all. Collectors don't chase the average, they chase the impossible. And the 1967 cent hides impossibilities in plain sight. Act 2 is where the story darkens and the whispers begin. Because not all 1967 pennies are created equal. Some were struck with dramatic double DISA errors so bold that Lincoln's date, lettering, or profile appears to vibrate, split, or echo. Not the subtle machine doubling you ignore, the real kind. The kind you can see without magnification once you know where to look. Others were born from cracked or shattered dies, leaving raised lines, gouges, or even ghostly shapes across the surface. These aren't damage, they're fingerprints of a dying machine. And then there are the off-metal strikes. Imagine a 1967 Lincoln cent accidentally struck on the wrong placket, too light, too heavy, wrong alloy, wrong color, wrong everything. These errors weren't supposed to leave the mint, but some did, and when they surface, collectors don't ask if they're valuable, they ask how high the bidding will go. But the most explosive category, the one that turns curiosity into obsession, is condition. Here's the brutal truth. Nearly every 1967 penny you'll find is worn, dull, spotted, circulated to death, which makes pristine survivors almost mythical. A 1967 no mint mark Lincoln cent in true, blazing mint state, a razor-sharp strike, full red luster, flawless surfaces, is so rare that grading services treat them like unicorns. And when one grades at the very top of the scale, something strange happens. Price guides stop making sense, demand overwhelms logic, and auctions become battles of ego, legacy, and fear of missing out. This is where the reported sales enter the conversation. A top-graded 1967 Lincoln cent, virtually perfect, has been cited in numismatic circles with prices reaching as high as $844,000, not because it's old, not because it's gold, but because it's a survivor of chaos that shouldn't exist in that condition. And that's not the end of the rabbit hole. Some specialists speculate out quietly, carefully, that if a truly unique example were to surface, combining extreme mint state preservation with a dramatic, undisputed error, the theoretical value could reach into seven figures, millions, not because a price tag has already been to broken bar, but because the market has never seen one. And collectors pay fortunes for firsts. Ask yourself this: how many people checked their 1967 pennies before today? Exactly. Act 3 is where everything snaps into focus, because this isn't just a story about coins, it's a story about overlooked opportunity. The 1967 Lincoln cent lives in dresser drawers, coffee cans, inherited jars, and forgotten bank rolls across America. It's hiding among pennies people assume are worthless, and that assumption is what keeps it powerful. Most people never look closely, they never tilt the coin under light, never question a double letter, never weigh it, never imagine that the cent without a mint mark is something they've seen their entire lives. It could be anything but ordinary. But the collectors who know a broken bar, they look anyway. They know that history doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it whispers, sometimes it disguises itself as pocket change, and sometimes it waits for the right pair of eyes. So here's the final revelation. The value isn't just in the coin, it's in awareness. The moment you understand what to look for, you've crossed a line most people never do. You're no longer spending change, you're hunting. The next time a 1967 penny lands in your palm, you won't see 1 cent, you'll see a question mark, a possibility, a silent dare. Is it common, or is it the exception? Is it worn, or untouched? Is that doubling real? Is that line a crack? Does that weight feel off? Because fortunes don't always announce themselves with trumpets. Sometimes they arrive quietly, copper-colored, dismissed by millions, and the only thing standing between you and the discovery of a lifetime a broken bar is the decision to look closer. Check your change, check your jars, check your memories, because somewhere out there, a 1967 no mint mark Lincoln cent is waiting to shock the person who finally pays attention, and that person, a broken bar, might be you.